Snow falls heavily in a dark alley. 6-year-old twin girls cling to each other, hiding from their pursuer. When a billionaire in a navy suit steps between them and danger, no one suspects that a whispered plea will change their lives forever. Snow thickened over downtown Denver like someone was shaking the sky empty. The wind shoved through alleys and under doors, hunting warmth. Behind a brick wall sprayed with faded paint, 2 identical 6-year-old girls pressed into each other, as if they could become one smaller target. Sailor Quinn Freckles' chapped lips wrapped her arms around her twin like a shield. Sutton Quinn clutched a worn teddy bear with one ear missing, the kind of toy that had survived too much. Their coats were thin. Their gloves didn't match. Sailor tilted her head, listening. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Angry. A man's voice cut through the street noise like a cracked whip. Sailor Sutton, don't make this worse. Sailor's stomach turned cold. She covered Sutton's mouth gently, the way she'd learned to do when sound was dangerous. Shh, she breathed. Quiet like a mouse. Like we practiced. Sutton's eyes were huge, wet with panic. She nodded, but a tiny hiccup tried to escape anyway. Sailor swallowed hard, forcing her own tears back. If she cried, Sutton would cry. If Sutton cried, he'd find them. Sailor looked up at the falling snow and whispered into it, soft, desperate, like a secret. Please, anyone. Please don't let him see us. The heavy steps grew closer, and then another sound. Different footsteps. Slower. Measured. Expensive. A calm man's voice, cultured and concerned, spoke from the mouth of the alley. Hey, are you girls lost? Are you okay? Sailor froze, because the last thing they needed was a stranger who would point them straight back to him. 3 hours earlier, the twins had slipped out the back stairwell of a tired apartment building with nothing but a plastic grocery bag and a brave lie. We're going on an adventure, Sailor had whispered, forcing a smile so Sutton wouldn't fall apart. But it wasn't an adventure. It was escape. They'd waited until Trent Maddox, their mom's ex, the man who insisted they call him Sir, left for the bar, where he spent his nights pretending the world owed him more. Sailor didn't understand adult words like custody and guardianship. She only understood the feeling that lived in their apartment, a heavy air that made breathing feel like stealing. Trent yelled too loud, too often, slammed doors, threw things not at them, but close enough that Sutton would flinch for hours afterward. And lately he'd started saying sentences that made Sailor's skin crawl. Kids need discipline. Kids need to learn who's in charge. Tonight he'd leaned down, smiling without kindness, and said, "Your little twin act won't save you forever." That was when Sailor decided we leave. They took what they could carry: Sutton's teddy bear, 2 granola bars, a pair of socks each, and a coffee can stash of crumpled bills Sailor had found hidden behind cleaning supplies. At the bus station, the ticket clerk had glanced at them and frowned. "Where's your parent?" Sailor lied with the courage of a cornered animal. "She's outside. She said to buy tickets." But the money wasn't enough. They were $20 short. $20 might as well have been a mountain. So Sailor led Sutton through the bright downtown district, past restaurants that smelled like butter and comfort, past windows glowing with holiday decorations, past people who didn't look cold even though the storm was trying to swallow the city. Sailor kept scanning for a sign that said shelter or help or safe. But the more she looked, the more she felt like the city didn't have those words for kids like them. Sutton's teeth began to chatter. "I'm tired," she whispered. "My legs are shaking." Sailor's heart broke quietly because she was tired too, but she couldn't let Sutton see it. When Sutton started crying from cold and fear, Sailor pulled her into the nearest alley, hugging her hard. "Just a minute," she promised. "Just a tiny minute. I'll figure it out." Then from the street, Trent's voice. "Close now. Too close." Sailor Sutton, Sailor's blood went icy. How she mouthed. How did he find us? And now in the alley, the calm stranger waited, watching them with eyes that didn't look cruel. Hey, he said softly. I'm not here to scare you. It's freezing. You shouldn't be out here. Sailor didn't answer. Because answers were how you got caught. The man took one careful step closer, slow enough to prove he wasn't hunting them. Snow dusted his dark hair and the shoulders of his expensive navy suit, the kind Sailor only saw on billboards. His shoes were polished. His watch gleamed. He looked like he belonged in warmth. Not here. Not with them. He crouched near the alley entrance, keeping a respectful distance. Do you know where you are? He asked gently. Are you separated from your family? Sailor's throat tightened. Family. That word didn't feel safe anymore. Before she could stop herself, the truth slipped out in a whisper that shook. Please. Don't tell him. The man's face changed instantly, like a door opening to understanding. Him, Sailor nodded, eyes stinging. Sutton clung to her teddy bear like it was oxygen. From the street, Trent's voice echoed again, closer, sharp with rage. I know you're here. The man's jaw set. Not angry like Trent, more like steel. Is that the man you're hiding from? He asked quietly. Sailor nodded again, fast. The man stood taller than the alley itself seemed to allow. He angled his body to block the view from the street, creating a human wall between the twins and the world outside. His voice lowered. I won't point you to anyone. But I need you to do exactly what I say, okay? Sailor didn't trust easily, but she trusted one thing this man had already chosen aside. Heavy footsteps slammed toward the alley mouth. A shadow spilled across the entrance like ink. Trent appeared, broad, flushed eyes, wild. The man in the navy suit stepped forward, as if he owned the sidewalk. Evening, he said smoothly, polite enough to be dangerous. Can I help you with something? Trent's gaze flicked suspicious. I'm looking for 2 girls. Twins. They ran off. It's my job to bring them home. 2 6-year-olds. Alone in this weather, the man asked, voice calm, eyes sharp. That sounds like an emergency. Trent's nostrils flared. Mind your business. It becomes my business when children are involved, the man said, still polite, still controlled. If they're missing, you should contact the police immediately. There's a station 2 blocks east. Trent's eyes narrowed. You trying to tell me what to do? I'm trying to keep children safe, the man replied. A long pause. The wind moaned between buildings. Then Trent spat to the side and backed away, still angry, still hunting, moving in the direction the man indicated. When his footsteps finally faded, the man didn't relax right away. He counted silently, waited, listened. Only then did he turn toward the alley, kneel again, and soften his expression. Okay, he said gently. He's gone for now. Sailor's knees threatened to buckle. The man offered his hand open, steady. My name is Graham Calloway. Sailor stared at him like he was something impossible, and whispered, barely audible, Are you? Real Graham didn't laugh. He didn't patronize. He didn't ask why 2 kids were alone. He just looked at their shaking bodies and made a decision, like a man used to solving problems fast. You're freezing, he said. We're getting you warm first. Then we'll do this the right way. Sailor hugged Sutton tighter. We don't need. You don't need charity. Graham finished softly, like he understood the pride hiding under fear. You need safety. He slid off his suit jacket and draped it around both girls, creating an instant cocoon of warmth that smelled like clean fabric and expensive cologne. Sutton's shoulders dropped a fraction, the first sign of relief all night. My car's around the corner, Graham said. You'll ride in the back, doors locked, heater on. Sailor hesitated, because the world had taught her one rule: adults always want something. And still. Graham had just lied to Trent without blinking, had protected them without asking their names. Sailor swallowed. If we go with you, are you going to hurt you? Graham asked, voice suddenly quiet and serious. Number Never. I'm going to get you help. Real help. He took out his phone and turned the screen toward her, careful. I'm calling emergency services and a child advocate line. You can listen to every word. He made the call. And Sailor listened. No secrets. No tricks. Just a calm voice requesting assistance, giving a location, explaining there were 2 minors in danger, and asking for guidance. Something inside Sailor unclenched just a little. Graham opened the back door of a black Mercedes, the interior warm like a different planet. He had a booster seat in the trunk, used clean. From my daughter, he said. She's 7. He buckled Sutton first, then Sailor, working with the careful hands of someone who knew kids weren't luggage. They were fragile universes. As the car rolled away, Sailor kept staring into the rearview mirror, expecting Trent to appear like a nightmare that refused to end. But the streets behind them stayed empty. Snow swallowed everything. Graham's voice floated back calm and steady. You're doing great. Both of you. Sailor didn't know why those words hit so hard. Maybe because nobody had said that to her in a long time. Sutton's eyes fluttered heavy with exhaustion. She whispered, voice tiny, Sailor, are we safe? Sailor looked at the navy suit jacket around them, looked at the locked doors, the warmth, the quiet. And for the first time that night, she dared to say it. I think we might be. Graham drove with one hand steady on the wheel, the other resting near the console like he could press a button and summon protection out of thin air. Where are we going? Sailor asked, trying to sound older than 6. My home, Graham answered. A townhouse. 15 minutes. Sailor's throat tightened. We can't go back. I'm not taking you back, Graham said firmly. And I'm not hiding you illegally either. We're doing this safely with professionals involved. Sailor didn't fully understand, but the words safely and professionals sounded like armor. He glanced at them in the mirror. What are your names? Sailor hesitated, then decided truth was safer than silence now. I'm Sailor. She's Sutton. We're twins. Graham nodded once, as if filing it away like something precious. Okay. Hi, Sailor. Hi, Sutton. Sutton mumbled through sleepy lips. Hi. Graham's voice softened. How old are you? 6, Sailor said. Both. He inhaled slowly, controlled like he was holding back anger that wasn't meant for them. Is that man your father? He asked carefully. Sailor's answer came fast, sharp, like a flinch. No. Sutton squeezed her teddy bear. He gets mad. Graham didn't ask for details. Not there. Not in the car. Not while they were still shaking. He just said okay with the weight of a promise. His townhouse sat in an elegant neighborhood where snow looked like decoration instead of danger. Tall trees, warm lights, quiet streets. He pulled into a garage and closed the door behind them, sealing out the storm. Private entrance, he said. No one needs to see you right now. Inside the home was beautiful but lived-in toys on the floor, kids' drawings on the fridge, a faint scent of cinnamon. Sailor stared like she'd walked into a movie. Graham knelt to their level. First hot food, second warm bath. Third, we wait for the child advocate officer to arrive and guide the next steps. Okay. Sailor nodded. Sutton whispered, Do you have cocoa? Graham's mouth twitched almost a smile. I have the good kind. He led them into the kitchen, turned on bright warmth, and moved with quick competence, pulling bread, soup, cheese. Not microwaving, cooking. Sailor watched like it was magic, because back in the apartment, food was stress, rules, timing, punishment. Here, food felt like care. Graham placed 2 steaming mugs of cocoa in front of them, marshmallows floating like tiny lifeboats. Sutton took a sip and instantly started to cry, silent tears sliding down her cheeks. Graham's eyes softened. Hey, it's okay, Sutton whispered, broken. It's warm. And Sailor realized warmth wasn't just temperature. It was what happened when someone decided you mattered. A soft knock came at the door an hour later, quiet, official, non-threatening. Graham opened it to a woman with kind eyes and a badge clipped to her coat. "I'm Marisol Vega," she said. "Child Advocate Officer. We received your call." Graham stepped aside, letting her in without crowding the girls. Marisol crouched, low voice, gentle. "Hi, sweethearts. I'm here to help make sure you're safe." Sailor didn't move. Sutton hid behind her twin. Marisol didn't push. She just said, "I brought blankets," and held them out like peace offerings. Sailor took them slowly. Marisol asked simple questions, names, age, whether they felt safe with Trent. She didn't demand details. She didn't force trauma into sentences. When she asked, "Do you want to go back with him tonight?" both twins shook their heads so hard their hair flicked. Marisol's expression hardened, not at them, but for them. She looked to Graham. "We're going to open an emergency protective case. Tonight, the priority is safety." Sailor heard those words like a door opening to a future. Marisol continued, "We can place them at a shelter with child beds or with a temporary safe home if the home is cleared, and the guardian agrees to cooperate with legal process." Graham's voice was steady. "They can stay here. I have a security system, cameras, and a private garage. I'll comply with every requirement." Marisol studied him. "You understand you can't just keep children?" "I understand," Graham said. "I'm not asking to keep them. I'm asking to keep them warm and protected until you decide the safest next step." Marisol nodded once. "We'll need a formal background check, home safety verification, and a temporary safety plan." "Do it," Graham said immediately. Sailor's eyes stung. She clutched Sutton's hand under the blanket. Marisol turned back to the girls. "We'll also arrange a lawyer who specializes in child safety, and we'll make sure Trent Maddox is instructed not to contact you." Sailor whispered barely, "He'll come." Marisol's voice became iron wrapped in velvet. "If he comes, there are legal consequences. And you won't be alone," Graham added softly. "And my security will call police immediately." Sailor exhaled for the first time like her lungs weren't locked. That night, Graham showed them a guest room painted calm gray-blue. 2 small beds, fresh pajamas, stuffed animals on a shelf like the room had been waiting for laughter. Sutton crawled into bed and hugged her teddy bear tighter. Sailor stood in the doorway, still suspicious of comfort, still waiting for the cost. Graham didn't step inside without permission. He just said, "You're safe here tonight." Then he turned off the hall light, leaving a small lamp on. Not darkness, not control, just a soft, steady glow. Sailor didn't sleep much. She listened for garage doors, for footsteps, for shouting that would tear the calm apart. But the house stayed quiet, in a way that felt unfamiliar, like peace was a language she hadn't learned yet. At sunrise, warm light spilled through the window, and the smell of coffee drifted down the hall. Sailor padded into the kitchen with Sutton trailing behind Teddy Bear under her arm. Graham sat at the counter with a laptop sleeves rolled tie loosened, looking less like a billboard and more like a tired man who still chose kindness anyway. "Good morning," he said softly. "I made pancakes." Sutton's eyes widened. With syrup, Graham confirmed. Sailor didn't sit right away. "Why are you doing this?" Graham closed the laptop, giving her his full attention. "Because you needed help, and because I saw fear in your eyes that no child should have." Sailor swallowed. "People say they'll help, then they don't." Graham nodded slowly. "That's true sometimes. But not today." A second knock came later, this time a woman in a sharp coat with a warm smile, Asha Monroe, child safety attorney. She spoke with the calm authority of someone who didn't get intimidated. "I'm not here to scare you," Asha told the twins sitting at the table like she belonged there. "I'm here to make sure adults follow the law and that you're protected. Asha explained options in child-friendly language: emergency protection order, no contact directive, safe placement plan, trauma-informed counseling, school continuity and stability. Sailor listened like her life depended on it. Because it did. Asha looked to Graham. You've done the right thing by involving professionals, but this will get messy. Trent may try to manipulate the system. Graham's eyes narrowed. Then we'll do it properly. Cameras, statements, documentation. Sutton whispered, will we have to see him? Asha's voice softened. Not alone, and not without protections. But first we make sure he cannot reach you. Graham placed a small notebook in front of Sailor. If you ever feel scared, you tell me or Marisol or Asha. You don't carry it by yourself. Sailor stared at the notebook, blank pages ready for a new story. She didn't trust Hope yet. But she felt something else. A strange sensation. Like maybe adults could be safe. For the next few days, life settled into a rhythm that felt almost unreal. Warm breakfasts, quiet hallways, a security system that beeped softly when doors opened like the house itself was awake and watching. Marisol checked in daily. Asha filed paperwork. Graham kept records, times, dates, statements, building a legal wall brick by brick. The twins stayed inside, mostly letting the storm pass, letting their nerves stop buzzing like live wires. Graham never demanded affection, never asked for gratitude, never acted like their fear was inconvenient. He simply made space. Sutton discovered the living room had a blanket basket and declared it the fort place. Graham, without hesitation, helped build a pillow fortress tall enough to feel like a castle. Sailor watched him crawl on the floor in a navy dress shirt, sleeves rolled, tie tossed aside as if being important didn't matter more than being present. Sutton giggled, an actual giggle, bright and surprised. Sailor's chest tightened. Because laughter used to be dangerous. It used to trigger quiet down and stop that and what's wrong with you. Here laughter seemed allowed. One evening, Graham received a call and stepped into the hallway. His voice dropped low, controlled. When he returned, his expression was calm, but his eyes were stormy. Asha arrived minutes later. Sailor felt it immediately. Something changed. Asha sat with them, speaking gently but honestly. Trent is telling authorities you were kidnapped by a stranger. He's trying to create confusion. Sutton's face went white. He's lying, I know, Asha said, and we'll prove it. We have the child advocate report, the emergency plan, and Graham's call record. We have witnesses who heard him yelling. Sailor's small fists clenched. He's gonna come. Graham crouched down, his voice firm. If he comes, the police will be here fast. My security already has his photo. You are not alone, Sutton whispered. But what if he tricks them? Asha's smile was sharp in the best way. Then he picked the wrong week to lie. Because I don't lose cases like this. That night, Sailor lay awake again, but this time, the fear had a new shape. Not helpless, not trapped. This time, fear had a rival. Protection. And protection, Sailor realized, was louder than fear when the right adults stood up. The storm cleared. The city glittered under fresh snow. On the 5th day, Graham drove the twins to a child-friendly center for a brief interview. Asha and Marisol present the entire time. No pressure, no interrogation. The interviewer used crayons and simple questions. What makes you feel safe? Sutton drew a house with a big garage door and a little lamp in a window. What makes you feel scared? Sailor drew a tall shape with angry lines for arms. Asha watched, eyes soft but focused. That's enough for today, she told the interviewer when Sailor's hand started shaking. They left early. On the way back, Sutton whispered, Are we in trouble? Graham's answer was immediate. No, you're getting protected. That's different. When they returned home, another car sat across the street, engine idling. Sailor's blood turned to ice. Graham's hand tightened on the steering wheel. Stay in the back, doors locked. The car across the street rolled forward, a familiar face behind the windshield. Trent. He didn't get out. He didn't yell. He just watched, like a threat disguised as patience. Graham's voice remained steady. That's intimidation. He pressed a button. The garage door opened and swallowed them into safety. Inside, the door closed with a heavy finality. Graham immediately called Marisol, then police, then Asha. Sailor stood near the kitchen island, trembling. Sutton clung to her teddy bear, whispering, "He found us." Graham knelt in front of them. "Listen to me, both of you. He found the neighborhood, not you. He is outside a system that's already moving against him." Asha arrived within the hour. "We're escalating," she said. "No contact order becomes immediate. He's done." Sailor's lips trembled. "He's gonna be mad." Asha nodded. "Yes, and the law doesn't care about his feelings." That night, for the first time, Sailor didn't ask the ceiling for mercy. She watched Graham check the cameras, set the alarm, and leave a hallway light on. And she thought very quietly, maybe safety isn't a place. Maybe it's a person. The no-contact order came faster than Sailor expected. Asha moved like a storm with paperwork. Marisol explained it to the twins in simple words. "He's not allowed to talk to you, see you, or come near you. If he does, he gets arrested." Sutton blinked. Even if he's really sorry, Asha's voice was gentle but firm. "Sorry is a behavior, not a sentence. We judge people by what they do next." Graham kept routines, steady breakfast, at the same time school packets, printed warm coats purchased, and a small desk set up for the twins. No big speeches, just structure. Sailor didn't realize how much structure felt like safety until it existed. Then one afternoon, Graham's front door opened, and a small voice rang out like a bell. "Dad, I'm here." A little girl with curly dark hair and bright eyes burst inside carrying a backpack and too much energy. Graham's face softened instantly. "Hey, Junie." Junie froze when she saw the twins. "Who are they?" Sailor stiffened, ready for rejection. But Junie didn't look disgusted or scared. She looked curious. Graham knelt beside his daughter. "These are Sailor and Sutton. They're staying here for a while because they needed a safe place." Junie tilted her head. Safe from what Graham didn't lie, but he didn't dump adult details either. From a grown-up who wasn't being safe. Junie nodded like that made perfect sense. Then she grinned. "Do you like forts? Because I'm the fort champion." Sutton's eyes widened. "We have a fort." Junie gasped dramatically. "A real fort." "Then we must upgrade it." Sailor watched the girls disappear into the living room like a small tornado of blankets and laughter. Her chest did something strange. It hurt, in a hopeful way. That night, Junie whispered to Graham in the hallway, loud enough for Sailor to hear. "They're nice. Can they stay forever?" Graham's voice lowered. "We'll see. But we'll keep them safe for as long as we can." Sailor pressed her forehead against the wall in the dark, and for the first time since leaving the apartment, she let herself cry. Not from fear, from relief. Weeks passed. Paperwork turned into plans. Plans turned into steps. Asha helped locate extended family options and formal services. Marisol ensured trauma-informed counseling referrals were in place. Everything was done cleanly, legally, carefully. Graham never treated the twins like a charity project. He treated them like kids. Sailor started sleeping through the night. Sutton started humming while she ate. And then, on a quiet Saturday, Graham found Sailor sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. He sat across from her at a distance so she didn't feel cornered. "What's going on in that brave head?" he asked softly. Sailor swallowed. "I keep waiting. For what? For you to change," she whispered. For you to get mad. For you to say we're too much. Graham's expression tightened as if the idea offended him. You are not too much, he said. You're 6. You're supposed to be cared for. Sailor's eyes filled. People say things. Then later they... I know, Graham interrupted gently. But I'm not Trent. And I'm not anyone who let you down. Sailor stared at the table. Why do you help us? Graham took a slow breath, choosing honesty over perfection. When my marriage fell apart, he said I felt powerless. I had resources, but I couldn't fix what mattered. And I hated that feeling. Sailor looked up. Graham continued, voice quiet. When I saw you in that alley protecting your sister with everything you had, I saw courage, the kind I wish I'd shown sooner in my own life. Sailor's voice trembled. So you're helping us, because it helps you too. Graham nodded once. Maybe, but that doesn't make it less real. Sailor wiped her cheek fast, embarrassed. Graham didn't comment. He just slid a small plate toward her. 2 cookies, warm, soft, no lecture, no strings, just a simple message baked into kindness. You don't have to earn safety. The next legal hearing approached like thunder you could feel in your bones. Asha prepared Graham, Marisol, and the twins' advocates. The twins wouldn't be forced into a harsh courtroom experience. Everything was arranged with child-safe procedures. Still, fear returned in quiet waves. Sutton began asking the same question at night. What if he comes through the window? Graham installed additional locks and window sensors. He showed the girls the alarm panel, letting them press the stay button each night. See, he said, the house is on your side. Junie made a security badge out of cardboard for Sutton and declared her captain of safety. Sutton smiled for the first time that day, but Sailor stayed tense, scanning corners like a tiny soldier who couldn't stop guarding. On the morning of the hearing, snow started again, lighter but insistent. Graham drove them to the advocacy center. Asha met them in the lobby, calm as stone. We're ready, she said. Sailor whispered to Asha. What if they don't believe us? Asha crouched to her level. Then I'll make them. But they will, because truth has weight. And you have a whole team holding it with you. Inside, the legal process moved fast. Trent wasn't allowed near the twins. His story collapsed under documentation, the recorded threats witnessed in public, the child advocate report, the no-contact intimidation attempt near Graham's home. Asha didn't yell. She didn't need to. She spoke like a blade. When it ended, Marisol hugged the twins gently, asking permission first. It's approved, Marisol said. Emergency protection continues. Trent is legally restricted. Sutton's knees nearly gave out. Sailor didn't celebrate. She just stared at the floor, like she couldn't believe the world had finally chosen the right side. Graham knelt. You did it, he said softly. Sailor whispered, voice raw, we didn't do it. You did. Graham shook his head. No. You walked out into the snow. You held on to each other. You kept going. Sailor's lip trembled, and for the first time she believed it a little. After the hearing, the house felt different. Not because the danger vanished overnight, but because the danger now had a leash, a legal leash. Graham began working from home more often, not hovering, just present. Marisol coordinated school enrollment so the twins could return to routine. The school counselor was briefed, prepared, and kind. The first day, Sailor and Sutton wore new coats to school. Sutton kept touching the sleeves like she couldn't believe they belonged to her. Junie walked them to the door like a proud big sister. If anybody is mean, tell me, she declared. I'm small, but I'm fierce. Sutton giggled. Sailor almost did. Almost. That night in the kitchen, Sailor found Graham reviewing documents again. You're always doing paperwork, she said. Graham smiled faintly. Paperwork is how grown-ups build walls around kids. Sailor stared at the pages. Do you get tired? Graham looked at her, really looked. Yes. Then why don't you stop? He leaned back, eyes soft. Because when I stop, people like Trent keep going. Sailor's throat tightened. He said nobody would help us. Graham's smile disappeared. He lied. Sailor whispered he was sure. Graham's voice dropped low, certain. He didn't count on one thing. What Graham looked toward the living room where Sutton and Junie were building another ridiculous fort. He answered simply, "Love is louder than fear." Sailor's eyes burned. She blinked hard. In the distance, the girls laughed. And the sound didn't feel dangerous anymore. It felt like proof. The next twist didn't arrive with shouting. It arrived quietly, like a knife hidden in paperwork. Asha called Graham one afternoon and asked him to sit down. "This is sensitive," she said. Graham's jaw tightened. "Talk." Asha explained Trent was attempting a legal maneuver claiming the twins were property of the household under informal guardianship, trying to drag the process out, hoping exhaustion would win. "He's trying to outlast you," Asha said. Graham's eyes hardened. "Then he doesn't know me." Sailor, sitting on the stairs, overheard enough to feel panic rise. Outlast. Exhaustion. Those were Trent's favorite weapons. That night, Sailor asked Graham something she'd never dared before. "Are we a problem?" Graham's answer came fast. "No," Sailor whispered. "Because people keep saying we're a lot." Graham crouched to her level. "You are not a lot. You are two children who deserve peace." Sailor's voice shook. "But what if he wins?" Graham's eyes went steady. "He won't." Sailor didn't fully trust promises, so Graham didn't offer only promises. He offered plans. He showed her the safety procedures, the legal documents, the timeline, the team. Then he said something that landed like a blanket around her shoulders. "You don't have to be the grown-up anymore, Sailor." Sailor swallowed small fists, unclenching. In the living room, Sutton fell asleep inside the fort teddy bear tucked under her chin. Graham looked at the fort, then back at Sailor. And softly, like a vow, "We're going to finish this." Trent tried one last move. He didn't come to the house. He came to the school, not inside because he couldn't. But he waited near the block line far enough to claim innocence, close enough to poison the air. The school had been warned. A security officer approached him immediately. Sailor saw him from a classroom window and went cold all the way through. Sutton's pencil fell from her hand. Their teacher, trained and calm, guided the class away from the windows. The counselor sat with the twins privately while the principal called police. Minutes later, Trent was escorted away. Not dramatically, not violently, just removed. Because rules existed now. That afternoon, Asha met them at Graham's house, eyes blazing. "That's a violation," she said. "We're filing. He's escalating, and the court will see it." Sailor sat on the couch, knees to chest shaking. Graham knelt in front of her. "You did the right thing by telling your teacher," Sailor whispered. "He looked at me like he still owns us." Graham's voice was low, steady. "He doesn't." Sutton whispered, tears slipping. "Will he ever stop?" Asha answered with fierce honesty. "Not because he suddenly becomes good. He stops because consequences become stronger than his ego." Sailor stared at the floor. "And if he doesn't stop," Graham's hand rested gently on the edge of the couch, close, not forcing touch. "Then we keep building protection until there's no space left for him." That night, Junie made anti-scary spray with water and lavender soap, labeling it in glitter marker. She sprayed the doorway dramatically. No bad vibes allowed. Sutton giggled through tears. Sailor didn't giggle, but she smiled. Small. Real. Time did what it always does, moved forward, even when fear begged it to freeze. Spring crept in, slowly melting the last edges of the snowbanks, like the city was finally exhaling. The twins began to look like kids again. Sutton joined art club. Sailor joined the library reading challenge. and acted like she didn't care while secretly counting every book like proof she could build a future with pages instead of panic. Graham stayed consistent. He never treated them like a temporary problem. He treated them like humans. One night after the girls were asleep, Asha sat with Graham at the kitchen island. "You're attached," she said bluntly. Graham didn't deny it. "Of course I am," Asha nodded. "Just remember, the system will decide their long-term placement, but you can be part of their stability." Graham's voice was quiet. "I just don't want them to feel abandoned again." Asha's eyes softened. "Then don't abandon them, even if the outcome changes shape." The next morning, Sailor found Graham staring at a photo on his phone, Junie at age 3, holding his finger like it was a rope in a storm. Sailor asked quietly, "Do you ever feel scared?" Graham looked up. "Every day." Sailor blinked. "But you act like you're not." Graham smiled faintly. "That's not bravery. That's responsibility." Sailor's voice cracked. "I'm tired of being responsible." Graham's expression softened. "Then let me carry it, okay?" Sailor stared at him like she didn't know adults could offer that. Then she whispered, almost like surrender, "Okay." Asha called with the next update. Long-term protective orders were being finalized and family placement options were narrowed. But the most surprising part wasn't legal. It was emotional. The twins listed Graham's house as their safe home in counseling, Marisol told him. "They associate safety with you and with Junie." Graham went quiet. Because that wasn't just a compliment. That was a responsibility that could crush careless people. But Graham wasn't careless. That evening, he sat with the twins at the dining table and spoke in gentle truth. "Things may change," he said. "The legal process might decide a long-term plan. But I want you to know something." Sutton hugged her teddy bear. "Are we leaving?" Graham shook his head. "Not suddenly, not without planning, and not without your feelings mattering." Sailor stared at the table. "People always say that." Graham leaned forward. "I'm not people. I'm Graham." Junie chimed in, mouth full of cereal. "He's annoying sometimes, but he keeps promises." Sutton snorted a laugh. Sailor's eyes stung. Graham continued softly. "No matter what the paperwork says, I will stay in your life if it's safe and allowed. I won't disappear." Sailor's voice came out thin. Why, Graham swallowed. "Because you didn't just show up in my life, you changed it," Sutton whispered. "We did." Graham nodded. "You reminded me what matters." Sailor stared at him like she was trying to decide if hope was safe enough to touch. Then she asked the most 6-year-old question possible, voice trembling. "If we stay, can we keep the lamp on?" Graham smiled, eyes shining. "Always." The final hearing arrived like a closing chapter. Asha stood sharp and calm. Marisol had reports. The counselor had statements. The school had incident logs. Trent's story had fallen apart piece by piece. He didn't look powerful anymore. He looked desperate. The court issued stronger restrictions and a long-term protective arrangement that prioritized stability and safety. No dramatic courtroom speech, just the quiet, heavy sound of consequences landing. Afterward, outside the building, Sailor held Sutton's hand and whispered, "It's over." But Sutton shook her head. "Not over, just safer." Sailor blinked because Sutton was right. Healing didn't come with a gavel. Healing came with mornings where nobody yelled, with doors that didn't slam, with adults who didn't make kindness feel like debt. Back at home, Junie threw a safety party with paper crowns and hot chocolate. Sutton laughed until she coughed. Sailor sat on the couch, watching it like she couldn't believe it belonged to her. Graham sat beside her, close, not touching. Sailor whispered, "Do you think we'll ever stop being scared?" Graham answered quietly, "Not all at once. But one day you'll wake up and realize you forgot to check the windows." Sailor's eyes filled. "And if I don't," she whispered. Graham's voice didn't waver. "Then we keep the lamp on as long as you need." Sailor nodded, a 6-year-old nod, but inside it was something older trust. Months later, the Callaway townhouse didn't feel like a place the twins were staying. It felt like a home that had learned their names and kept them gently the way warm light clings to a room at dusk. 2 tiny backpacks leaned against the entry bench, one with a glitter keychain, one with a library tag Sailor insisted on keeping for organization. 3 pairs of kids' shoes lined up beside Junie's sneakers, because Sutton always forgot hers by the couch. There were crayons in the kitchen drawer now, and a calendar on the fridge with stickers for school counselor and Junie week. Sailor still checked the window locks sometimes. Not because Graham told her to, because her body remembered, but the checking had changed. It wasn't panic anymore. It was habit fading. On a bright Saturday, Graham took the girls to a bookstore downtown, the kind with a coffee bar and chairs that invited you to stay. Snow was gone from the sidewalks, replaced by sunlight and damp air that smelled like thawed earth. Junie raced ahead like a tour guide. "Rule number 1, she declared, pointing dramatically. "You can pick any book you want, but you have to actually read it. That's the law." Sutton clutched her teddy bear under one arm and chose a picture book with a stuffed animal on the cover, so similar it made her giggle. "He looks like mine," she whispered, rubbing the worn ear of her bear like it was a good luck charm. Sailor walked slower, fingers trailing along the spines. Her eyes kept landing on stories about brave kids, kids who ran kids, who hid kids, who found help. She picked a chapter book with a girl standing under a street lamp on the cover. The title wasn't flashy. It was solid, like a promise. At the checkout counter, the cashier smiled warmly. "Family Day." Sailor froze so hard her shoulders lifted. Junie answered before anyone could think. "Yep, Fort Family Day specifically." The cashier laughed. Graham's hand tightened around the bag handles just slightly, like he was holding something fragile and precious. He didn't correct Junie. He didn't label anything. He simply paid and thanked the cashier, calm as ever, as if kindness was the most normal thing in the world. In the car, Sailor stared out at the city rushing past. Then her voice slipped out, small and serious. "Graham, yeah," he said, glancing at her in the mirror. "If we're not your kids," she began, swallowing hard. "Do you still want us around?" Graham pulled into a quiet parking lot and turned the engine off. No rushing. No pretending he didn't hear the weight in her question. He turned in his seat and met her eyes like she mattered as much as any contract or court order. "Sailor Quinn," he said softly, "I want you safe. I want you supported. I want you loved. Whether that's under my roof or through a long-term plan that keeps us connected. I'm not letting you disappear." Sailor blinked, fast, cheeks burning. Sutton scooted closer to her twin, pressing a warm shoulder against hers. Junie whispered like a secret. "Told you he keeps promises." And for the first time, Sailor didn't feel like she was borrowing peace. She felt like she belonged in it. The last time Trent tried to break the boundary, he didn't show up screaming. He tried something quieter, something that used to work on scared kids. A message, a note, a "please talk to me" written in the language of guilt. But it didn't reach them. Because safety wasn't just a feeling anymore. Safety was systems, policies, adults who kept records, doors that locked, cameras that watched, a lawyer who moved faster than manipulation, a child advocate who didn't get distracted by charming stories. And most importantly, safety was the twins learning they were allowed to say no. Asha called Graham one evening, voice crisp. He attempted contact through a third party. "We documented it. We're responding legally. The order stands." Graham's jaw tightened. "Do they need to know, not the details," Asha said. "Just reassurance. Keep routines steady." So Graham did exactly that. He made grilled cheese and tomato soup like the first night, simple, familiar grounding. He set 3 cups of hot cocoa on the table, marshmallows floating like tiny white flags of comfort. Junie announced, "This is a Cocoa Council meeting," and Sutton snorted a laugh so sudden she startled herself. Sailor didn't laugh right away. She watched Graham's face, searching for cracks. In the old life, tension always led to shouting. In the old life, adults leaked danger like gas. But Graham just sat down and said, calm and steady, "You're safe. The grown-ups are handling the grown-up stuff." Sailor's eyes stung. Is he mad? Graham didn't lie. Yes. But his anger doesn't get to control your life anymore. Sutton hugged her teddy bear tighter. What if he never stops being mad? Asha's voice echoed in Graham's answer, clean and firm. Then consequences keep getting stronger. That's how boundaries work. Later that night, the townhouse went quiet. Sutton fell asleep, fast cocoa warmth still in her cheeks. Junie drifted off with a book open on her chest, one sock missing like always. Sailor sat in the hallway outside Sutton's room, knees tucked to her chest, staring at the carpet. The fear wasn't roaring. It was whispering, trying to convince her safety was temporary. Graham approached quietly and sat a few feet away, not crowding her. You okay? Sailor nodded, then shook her head. Her voice came out thin. I keep thinking, if you didn't walk into that alley. Graham's reply was immediate, sure. But I did. Sailor swallowed hard. Why were you even there? He looked down the hallway toward the warm glow of the nightlight Junie insisted on keeping plugged in. Late meeting, he said, and I took the long way home. Sailor frowned. Why, Graham's smile was small, almost sad. I don't know. Maybe something in me needed to be reminded the world is bigger than my work. Maybe something in you needed someone to notice. Sailor's breath hitched. I didn't know grown-ups could be good. Graham's voice softened. Some aren't. But some are, and you get to choose who stays near you. Sailor wiped her face fast, embarrassed. Then, without asking permission from her fear, she leaned her head against his shoulder just for a second. Just long enough to feel the steady warmth of a safe adult who didn't demand anything in return. Graham didn't move. He didn't make it a moment she'd owe him. He simply stayed. And the hallway lamp stayed on too quiet proof that this time the light wasn't leaving. Spring finally pushed winter out of Denver, turning the last gray piles of snow into thin rivers along the curb. The air smelled like wet earth, and new starts like the city itself was learning how to breathe again. On the anniversary of the night Graham found them, Junie declared it a fort holiday, which sounded official enough that nobody argued. She dragged every blanket in the house into the living room, like a tiny general planning a siege. Sutton brought her teddy bear cleaner now, with one ear carefully stitched back on after Junie had insisted he deserved a glow-up. She set him in the center of the fort like a guest of honor. Sailor watched it all from the couch, arms wrapped around her knees, feeling something unfamiliar sit beside her like a gentle stranger. Peace. Not the loud kind. Not the perfect kind. The kind that shows up in small, ordinary minutes. Graham crawled into the fort, too still looking ridiculous in a navy dress shirt tie long forgotten. The girls giggled when he bumped his head on the blanket roof, and for once Sailor didn't flinch at the sound of her own happiness. Inside the fort, the lamp glowed through the fabric walls, turning everything gold. Junie whispered, "Fort family meeting," like it was sacred. Sailor looked at Graham, her voice barely a thread. "Thank you for not telling him." Graham's eyes softened. "Thank you for trusting me." Sutton yawned and curled into Sailor's side teddy bear tucked under her chin. Junie leaned against Graham with a book in her lap, already half asleep. Sailor stared at the warm blur of the lamp and asked the question that had haunted her since the snow. Do kids like us get happy endings? Graham didn't hesitate. You already started yours, he said quietly, the night you held your sister's hand and kept walking. Outside, the wind moved through trees, Inside, the light stayed on, and this time so did they. Did this story move you? Share your thoughts in the comments and rate this story from 1 to 10. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss other heartwarming stories. Click on the last screen to see the next emotional chapter waiting for you. See you in the next story.